welcome to episode 9 of the Eternal MMA Insiders podcast. We're joined today by none other than Casey Oneill. She says that shares the same surname as co-promoter Cam Oneill, and they are father and daughter combination, and they don't have all their own teeth.
That was private.
Nothing's private. Nothing's private. Casey, welcome. How's Thailand in this weird time?
It's better now. We have had like the past 3 weeks, we've been back at the gym, only fitness classes at the moment. But as of next week, we have a kind of regular schedule. But we were for 2 weeks in lockdown in the house, no beach, no gym, nothing. So just in a hot room in Thailand doing nothing, but better now.
So, of course, for anybody tuning into the podcast that doesn't realise, Casey actually lives out in Thailand, is based out of Tiger, Muay Thai and Phuket, and she obviously finds the beach a major part of her training schedule. So the fact that she couldn't get there during COVID, how do you think that's like halted your progress?
Well, listen, if you look good, you feel good. So you hit the gym in the morning, then you go to the beach in the afternoon, get a good tan up. You go back to the gym in the afternoon, and it's all good. It's definitely halted some serious progress.
I do have it on good authority. Like, I've got a few spies in the Tiger camp. There may or may not have been some rolling going on over there. May or may not.
There was definitely some secret no-gi parties, that's for sure. But yeah, actually we did, like, one of the boys had a gym sort of at his house, a gym, just mats, and the police had rocked up one morning when they were all swinging kettlebells around and said that you can't do this, basically, because of the social distancing. So we just moved the mats behind the wall and just kept going like normal. And
I thought you would just give them $5 and tell them to fuck off.
I mean, basically we could, right? But you never know. So.
Yeah.
So obviously your schedule, gym, beach, gym, is very different to what your daily schedule was in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So are you finding that much easier to train, much better for development, much more relaxing, less stressful? What's the benefits of being based out in Thailand as compared to being based in Southeast Queensland?
Yeah, there's pros and cons to it, I would say, but probably the benefit is being able to just focus completely on fighting and not have to go to a regular job as you would. And there's obviously a lot less financial stress being somewhere like Thailand. It's a lot cheaper to live. The coaches here are amazing. I have great training partners. I got a lot of girls around my weight. I think there's about 5 or 6 of us that fight between strawweight and flyweight. So we're all like great size for each other. So that's been a massive plus. But I wouldn't say it's been any less stressful. I think as soon as...
Oh, we lost
someone called me. Sorry.
Fuck's sake.
But, sorry. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's been any less stressful. I think actually for the first little while when I moved here, maybe the first 3 months, I just consistently overtrained because I had a lot more time than I was used to. And I was just overtraining and overtraining and overtraining. And people would tell me, you're training too much. But I was a stubborn 22-year-old and was like, no, I'm not training too much. So I kept training like that. And obviously, yeah, there was a bit of a detriment there with coming up to that Melbourne fight. I definitely felt the effects of overtraining for sure, but I'm a lot smarter about it now. So.
And that's pretty interesting because probably, obviously, you know, up until you went to Thailand, every single fight camp, or I went through it with you on the other end of messages and phone calls and all sorts of stressful things. And you didn't think there was such a thing. You never thought there was such a thing as overtraining. If one person that would argue black and white that there was no such thing as overtraining was you before you went to Thailand.
Listen, here at Tiger, there's about 10 different classes a day on the schedule. So when I first moved here, I was like, yeah, let's just try and hit 4 or 5 a day, every day, 6 days a week, you know, like just trying to get in as much as I could because I'd never had access to that much before. And honestly, by Tuesday, you're absolutely wrecked. And then you're just pushing your body through, like not learning anything. And people did warn me, but I'm like, obviously I've never thought overtraining is a thing, right? So I'm just like training. And then, yeah, I definitely believe in it now though, for sure.
I actually didn't believe in it either back in the day. And then I was training my brother at the time, and he had something like ridiculous, like 9 fights in 18 months or something like that. He was renowned for like being a sort of grindy wrestler, like great cardio, and he'd get to the fights and he'd be gassed after round 1. And he didn't tell us, but all the way through, like constant weight cuts and stuff like that, his resting heart rate when he was waking up was elevated about 15 beats a minute than what it usually would be. So that's your first indicator. Like when you're waking up and your resting heart rate is through the roof, you know that there's a problem and your body's not getting back to where it needs to be. So yeah, that's where I found out, because we didn't think so either. Old school mentality was just go hard all the time. And
yeah, I mean, that's what I grew up with, right? Like dad was one of the people that always used to say, you know, like just go. And I believed in it for sure. But a lot of the time when I was here, you know, I was doing the 4 classes, I was running, I would wake up, I'd already be exhausted, and I would just double the intake of pre-workout before I'd hit the gym, and that would be like my solution to it, you know. So not the smartest way.
You pushed on and did what you had to do in them fights, and you still look good in those fights. So
yeah, I mean, the Melbourne fight was the one that opened my eyes though, because obviously it was the first time I've ever missed weight. It was probably the worst I've ever felt cutting weight in my life. I mean, you both were there to see it. It went on for hours and it was awful. And I weighed in, and as I was rehydrating, I had muscle cramps all over my whole body. I had not followed Jordy's plan. That was the first time I'd never followed Jordy's plan, because I'd just moved to Thailand and I didn't have access to a kitchen and stuff. So I was eating out a lot. So obviously, like, I wasn't able to follow the plan. So a lot of things just went wrong. And then the rehydration was terrible.
Sorry, let me stop you. Just for those who don't know, who's Jordy?
Jordy's a fight dietitian. So he's my dietitian. I started with him in my amateur career, and we worked together for every fight. He still helped me for that fight in Melbourne, but it was hard because obviously not being able to cook, you can't control what's going into the food you're eating. So we were guesstimating at all times. And obviously it didn't work out, because, I mean, I still won the fight, but in the fight I felt awful. I've never been gassed in a fight in my life, and I was like blowing smoke out my ass after that first round, you know, like it was pure willpower that kept me going through that fight. I was like, I'm not losing. But yeah, definitely it could have been a lot worse. So take overtraining a lot more seriously now, and I moved to a place with a kitchen straight after that fight, so no more fucking around.
A kitchen and many curtains by the looks of it. Can you explain?
There's so many curtains in this house. So I actually moved in with a friend, and this wasn't a room, and they made it a room for me. So they've just shoved curtains up in the living room and made half the living room my room.
So there's a good story behind who your housemate is, and how the two of you have came to live together as well. Obviously, I know it, you know, this podcast obviously going to be pretty different from a lot of other ones that me and Ben do, simply because I've got that much inside information on you. But Ben probably doesn't even know the story.
I have no idea who that strange lady
so
was.
I live with Jada Ketley, the girl that I fought in my second professional fight. So yeah, we fought each other for my belt in the Gold Coast. I was her MMA debut. And yeah, and then when I moved over to Thailand, she was moving here, and she messaged me and said, do you want to hang out? And we hung out, and then yeah, now we're like really good friends. We live together, we train together. She moved to Tiger. She was originally at Phuket Top Team, but then she moved over. So yeah, bit of a strange story, but it's good. All the good friendships come out of strange stories, I guess.
Yeah, I see it all the time with fighting in this country. Like guys fight, and then they strike up this little, you know, you share something that's pretty unique when you fight someone. You know, that not many people will ever experience that, but it's a strange bond that you have with someone that share.
It's hard. It's hard not to like someone after you guys get in the cage and fight each other. You know, like it takes a lot to get in there and do that, and then the respect that you have for the other person after it's over is you know, no matter how you feel going into it, because a lot of the times, like, you see my weigh-ins, I'm not the nicest person to my opponents, but then afterwards I seem to become friends with all of them. So yeah, I don't know.
You're a very nice person from my experience, but
no, I'm pretty nice, Ben.
luckily,
nice.
Otherwise I might have binned you a long time ago.
So no, cutting back as well to the amount of training partners that you've got. Obviously, you know, you've probably never had so many girls in your weight range to work with before, so obviously that's pretty special. You know, in the last couple of weeks, your Loma, who's obviously strawweight with the UFC's, come back to work for you guys at Tiger, and probably more topical as Cynthia Calvillo, who was working with you guys up until just very recently. It was just a very high profile move up to flyweight, headlined the card, and you know, had a good win at the weekend. How does that does that like raise the level of all you guys when you see how well other people are doing round about you?
I think that just having all the girls around raises your level regardless, you know. So like with the boys, they're obviously not going 100% with you at all times, but with the girls, there's that little ego, I guess, that we all have, where all of us girls, like, we want each other to improve, but obviously you have the chance to go 100%. So we're at the gym trying to kill each other. So you've got no other option but to get better, you know, otherwise you just end up drowning basically in the waters. And that was something I found with Cynthia, especially when she was here. The first time I rolled with her, it honestly felt like I was drowning. I thought I had good jiu-jitsu, and I rolled with her and I was like, damn, this girl is like really good on the ground. But by the time she was leaving, she had showed me so much that, like, I feel like I improved so much just from that. And then obviously I've got Loma with my Muay Thai, I've got Claudia, I've got Jada, I've got Mel for my wrestling, like all the girls. So yeah, I think you just evolve just from having each other and pushing each other every day.
You get that confidence as well, knowing that these girls are operating at the highest level and you're training with them and holding your own and better day in, day out, you know.
Yeah, I definitely felt my confidence grow. Like, I don't know, it's almost like I was a little bit nervous before the first time I sparred with Cynthia or Loma or someone like that, because I knew that they were up there, they were in the UFC, they had a name and stuff. And then after you finish sparring them, you're like, oh, you know, like, I'm actually pretty good. So yeah, it definitely builds the confidence, but I've never lacked in confidence. So yeah, no problems.
Lack of confidence isn't a trait that many people in the family seem to have.
No.
Coaching team, talk us through the coaching staff that you're working with.
Yeah, so George Hickman is my main coach, my head coach. I'm very lucky that he's decided to take me under his wing. There's a lot of fighters that come through Tiger in and out, and obviously he picks a few that he gives his main attention to, and I'm very lucky that he's taken me under his wing for that. So he does like my all-around game. And then I have Frank Hickman, his brother, is my main wrestling coach. He's a great wrestler. I've got Alex Shield as my jiu-jitsu coach, and then we've got Sam Baston and John Hutchinson as my boxing coaches. And then I've got Andrew Wood as my strength and conditioning coach.
Big Woods.
So, yeah, Big Woods. So I got a good team behind me now.
Do you do any training with Ad Earnshaw? He was
we sparred quite a lot of times actually through quarantine, and he just kicked my ass. But it was a good time, good fun.
He was coaching here until he got he had to leave the country, unfortunately. But he's a fantastic coach.
He's great.
Jim,
yeah.
Sad.
So we sort of got together at Woody's house during quarantine. A couple of us, me, Ad, Sammy, some of the boys, and we just did strength and conditioning every day, and then punched each other in the face when we felt like it, and had a few rolls. So it's pretty good. I was grateful to have them through that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. And yeah.
Yeah, I think through isolation, my Instagram stories were filled with people getting broken by Woody all over Australia and Thailand. You know, there was a lot of people in Australia doing some of Woody's online workouts and, you know, not looking to crash hot after them. Jordy, the fight dietitian, being one of them. And he loves a selfie as well, and was often crediting Woody's workouts. But that sounds as if there's a really good bond and a really good team that all kind of helps each other out in the, working together out there with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've never met someone with knowledge of strength and conditioning like Woody. Like, he works with like a lot of the top guys. He was Brad Riddell's strength and conditioning coach and main pad holder for a long time. Alex Volkanovski works with him when he's here. He works with Rafa, one of the boys fighting on Fight Island in a couple of weeks. He works with Khalil Roundtree. He works with like all of the elite guys. So just the knowledge that he passes on is amazing. I wouldn't even think to do half the workouts he does. And the way that he made my body feel with just body weight workouts was insane. I was not taking selfies after those sessions. They were not pretty.
Yeah, Jasmine did a few of his sessions as well. She was telling me that she was a mess after.
Yeah, they were brutal. They were really brutal. I remember he did one during quarantine. It was all body weight, but you started with like 100 reps of jumping jacks, and you went all the way down to 10, and then you went all the way back up to 100 of other things. I'm on a podcast. Sorry.
That's a nice kid you got there. Lovely.
Yeah, she lives upstairs too. So yeah, got a crazy house going on, but it's good.
Yeah, it sounds like having as a young fighter, it sounds like it's a real good place for you to be.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, like, including my dad, everyone for years was telling me, like, just to come to Tiger or just to come to Thailand or somewhere like that and see what it does for you, and yeah, I think that I evolved so much faster being able to train full time, So even look at the two differences between my Melbourne fight and my Perth fight, I felt like a different fighter. And that was only like 4 months or 5 months or whatever.
Let's talk about that Perth fight, because the thing that stood out for me about that was how much fun you had. Like, it really looked like you were loving every second of that fight.
Yeah, I really did. And the training camp would not make you think that, because I think I cried more times in that training camp for that fight than I've ever cried in my whole life. I honestly think I cried every day. But
you have cried a lot in training.
To be fair, I do cry a lot. I am a crier.
I spent a lot of time sitting on the side of mats being emotional.
Yeah, George at one point was like, "Oh God, go home." Like, I think I cry a little bit too much. But hey, I'm really into fighting. So yeah, and you see it in my fight, like you said, I had so much fun in that fight. It was a big test for me, first fight up at flyweight and stuff. Jordy had been talking to me for a while about trying flyweight. Woody had mentioned it as well. They were both wanting me to do it, and I was really hesitant. I was scared that I was going to be too small, and that obviously was not the case at all in the fight. So as soon as I realized that, and I started having heaps of fun, and I didn't have to sit in a sauna like for the Melbourne fight for 24 hours and cut weight. I sat in the sauna for 20 minutes and I was on weight. So it was a much different experience for me, and it was definitely the most fun that I've ever had. It's probably the best I've ever felt in a fight too. I was not tired at all at any point. So yeah, it was heaps of fun.
So is that you at flyweight now, or are you going to flick between the two?
We're going to take another one and we're going to see. We're going to do another flyweight and see how it goes. But I don't know. So basically what happened after the Melbourne fight, obviously I did a lot of damage to my body. Jordy would be able to explain this better than me, but all of my levels went out of whack and I ended up getting heavier than I've ever been in my life. And I had to stop training for a little bit just because just my body was just ruined. Basically, I had done a lot of damage, and so then I had no choice but to fight at flyweight for that one. Decided to take the fight, and now my weight is lower and I'm much healthier, but we're going to do one more and see how we feel, because like I said, that's the best I've ever felt, and that fight was at flyweight. And I mean, I'm a lot stronger now than I ever was. Like, I've been doing a proper strength and conditioning program, and that's literally, that fight from Perth was the first time I've ever done a strength and conditioning program in all of my fights. So, I mean, the first time I pretty much picked up weights also. So yeah, we're going to take one more and see how we go. And obviously, in terms of where I want to be, like the UFC and stuff, the flyweight division is really shallow. So I think that I would be a great addition for the flyweight division.
Yeah. And look, I think definitely keep it open as well. You know, if you can still make straw at the highest level, it's an option. Everywhere very shallow for females, as you know, fine matches. You have fought everywhere between bantamweight and strawweight, and I think being able to go between two weights as necessary, I don't think it's a bad thing. I know the fight that we all, you know, obviously, I don't think you've got anything locked in 100% yet that you can announce at the moment, but it does look like you've got a fight in July. Have you in camp for that?
I've stayed in camp the whole way through quarantine because Danny and I, my manager, have just been speaking, and I've just been saying, like, just get me in a fight. I just want to get in a fight, you know. 2020 was the year that I was planning on fighting 4 times and being like where I want to be by the end of the year, and obviously this put a halt to all of that, but I'm ready to get in there, you know. I've been training, and the past 2 weeks we've been specifically fight training, so hopefully July comes ahead. I'm just waiting to hear. I can't say anything yet, but I definitely will be fighting July, if not August.
Brilliant.
And it's not going to be in Australia either.
Ooh,
First time. Yeah.
National fight.
Yeah. So I think it's time, right? There's no one left in Australia to fight, realistically. I'm number 1. I just beat the number 2. There's no one else.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Mrs. International coming right up.
Yeah.
So going back to, you said that obviously everything's cheaper over there and it's easier to live and stuff, but obviously you can't work over there, right? So do you rely on, how do you rely on sort of income wise and rent? Are you on the scholarship?
Yeah, there? So Tiger gave me a scholarship for free training, so I don't need to pay for training, and I pay for everything else, but I saved up a bit of money before I came. I also have AB Cranes, my main sponsor. He sends me money every week, which is basically how I get by. I have Gypsy, which send me money also, and I have one other sponsor who wants to remain anonymous that he also sends me money.
Well done.
So yeah. It's not my dad, actually. My dad has
not me. I don't know.
Since being in this country. Thank you. Although I have asked a few times, I've always gotten no.
I'm always asking for money as well. You won't give me any money either.
I don't have any.
No.
MMA promoter, you should know that. We don't have any money.
I'm an MMA fighter. I have even less.
Yeah, it's one of those industries that unless you're at the top of the game, it's really hard to make money in. You know, it's.
Yeah.
We would be delighted to share 18% of our revenue with you.
Yeah, we can have 18% of fuck all. I think it still adds up to fuck all.
Yeah.
So you're pretty fresh today. You're 3 hours behind us just now, so it's like 1:20 on a Thursday afternoon. What have you done this morning so far?
It's Friday, but I just finished our conditioning session this morning, which was literally 500 kettlebell swings and 75 goblet squats broken up with the heaviest you could go. So yeah, just finished that this morning, and then I'm doing some non-contact stuff today because I went to the dentist yesterday and I'm not allowed to get punched in the mouth. But yeah, and then rest and recovery up until Monday. We have sparring on Monday, first day back sparring, first day back with jiu-jitsu class at 10 a.m. as well. So I'm just really stoked to get back next week into like the proper routine.
Why'd you go to the dentist?
One of the big differences, you know, you've always said
Shut up, Ben.
one of the big differences you've always said to me about training in Thailand compared to Australia was the level of wrestling coaching that you're actually getting now. You were always round about good jiu-jitsu coaches here, good striking coaches, etc. But you know, your wrestling's definitely evolved, and I think we've seen that in most fights recently. And no matter how much you bag your performance in Melbourne, I think your your wrestling and your jiu-jitsu there was, you know, I know you say somebody else phone, you toughed it out, but you know, I think that was the difference there against somebody, you know, the level of wrestling that you had.
Yeah, listen, if you ask Frank, he'll still tell you that my wrestling needs a lot of work, and I agree with him for sure. But in terms of Australian level, yeah, it's good, but I'm not settling for that. So Frank's actually been working with me a lot during quarantine, and I'm really grateful for that. I went over to his house quite a few times, and we went over things and stuff. So we had wrestling on Wednesday with the girls, and I got more takedowns than I've ever got before in my life. So I'm pretty stoked that I'm actually finally learning how to wrestle. So yeah, that's definitely something I never had in Australia either, was a wrestling coach. But I think it's really hard to find. They're few and far in between in all of Australia, you know.
I think where you were just before you left, you know, with Paul Stoyer up in Southside was, you know, that was as good as you were getting in Australia. You know, Paul's obviously very, you know, grappling and wrestling based. So
I could tell you somewhere else you could go. But,
yeah, well, I mean, in Queensland, yes, it was definitely the best place I could go.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even accessible for me. Like, it was 45-minute drive every day to training and back. You know, I was driving home at 11 o'clock at night, and I was getting up for work at 4:45 in the morning the next day, every day. And also before that class, I was training boxing for an hour. I don't know. I feel like I also wasn't getting that much out of it because I was traveling so much. I wasn't able to like properly focus at training. You know, you're thinking about, I'm tired. You've already been through all this whole day. So yeah, definitely like being here and focusing 100%, making sure I'm 100% for each session has helped me grow so fast.
And I think just jumping back to what you were saying there as well, Ben, and I don't think it's apples for apples what you guys do at Scrappy compared to the wrestling I was talking about there.
I'm being silly.
No, I'm just saying, you know, your wrestling's completely different in terms of it's just been developed purely for MMA. It's wrestling for MMA, whereas a lot of other people coming into gyms round about here are bringing an already established wrestling game, then adapting it to MMA, whereas everything you guys are doing has been, you know, it's like a system that you've learned.
Yeah, there's an MMA wrestling focus,
yeah.
But we do have actually as well. We have a freestyle wrestling coach here. He won bronze in the Junior Commonwealth Games as a freestyle wrestler. So the guys work with him. Obviously, when Fury comes over, there's for me very few better in the game.
And that's what I was probably getting at there. You know, you've learned from a system that Fury's what would I say, he's developed and he's probably perfecting all the time, you know, just making little adjustments. So you haven't had to adapt to wrestling to MMA. You've picked the full thing up that Fury's already developed and battle tested at the highest level.
Yeah, I've been lucky in that regard that it's an MMA wrestling that predominantly teach. It's not, you know, if we went and did a freestyle wrestling comp, it happened to me. Like I did a freestyle wrestling comp and I was on someone's back and I put my hooks in and he rolled over and pinned me. Like, it was just because the instincts aren't the same for freestyle wrestling. So it's not a great crossover, to be honest. Like starting from referee's position and laying on your front with your arms out and stuff like that doesn't translate to MMA. So you've got to be really careful with your, you know, going to go into a freestyle wrestling program isn't necessarily going to give you the best wrestling for MMA. It'll give you an idea of what the fun, and what I think is most important about wrestling training is how fucking hard it is. Like, it just gives you that extra level of confidence in your own psychological ability to push through these horrible, horrible sessions. That wrestlers are mentally tough because the sport is a grind.
Yeah, you don't last.
Another thing from here was the first ever session I went to, Frank's wrestling class, was for the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts, and it went for almost 2 hours, and it was just intense wrestling where I threw up in my mouth I think a couple of times. There was a couple of times where I just like couldn't see from like pure exhaustion, And I just went home and I was just like, I just need to stay here now. Like, that's when I knew that, like, I had to be here, you know. Also went from training wrestling once a week to twice a week. And they're the hardest days. Like, you definitely, the next day when you wake up, you feel everything hurts, but it's so worth it. Like what Ben said, pushing through that. Like, in a fight, you can push through anything if you can push through 2 hours of wrestling.
Did you cry?
Yeah, of course I cry. I cry all the time.
So with the...
I could probably cry right now if you guys wanted to. I could just turn it on.
Turn it on.
With the, obviously, Tiger's one of the more popular gyms for people travelling for holidays and short spells in Thailand. The numbers really dropped off at the moment, obviously, with COVID. And now, you know, do you feel as if the classes are smaller and you're getting more attention, etc.? You're getting the benefit from that?
Yeah, that's actually something that Alex Shield and I were talking about yesterday. Was for the first time ever, we don't have any visitors. We have a stable of people that we know that we can work together, you know. So it's definitely benefiting all of us professional fighters at the moment, because we've got the group of small people where we can all go together, and the group of big people that can all go together, and we know each other. We know how hard we can go, and we help each other improve. And obviously the coaches have less people to keep their eyes on. So yeah, you're getting more attention. All your little mistakes are getting picked up on that maybe wouldn't have in the past. And they're also watching over you 24/7. So there's no time to slack off. You know, you can't take rest during rounds, like on your back or in sparring. You can't just rest. You know, they're always on you, like, come on, let's go. So yeah, I've definitely been seeing some real benefits of having them watching you 24/7. And it also sucks, like especially this morning when they're standing there counting my reps, and I just want to put the kettlebell down and slack off. But yeah, it's worth it.
Is that going to affect, it's obviously going to affect it, but is there going to be a 2020 Tiger tryouts for the scholarship? Because that's usually next month, is it not?
Yeah, they've suspended it at the moment, is all I know. But I don't know when they're going to do it again. Obviously, at the moment, I know that Thailand is not letting anybody in. There's domestic travel, but no international travel. And they're hoping to open the airport next week for their safety bubble, which is just a couple of countries that are low risk. But obviously, it's not fair to put it on if not everybody can get here. So I would assume that they're not going to do it this year, but I haven't heard.
I would imagine there's a lot of people that will watch this podcast just because of what they'd be interested in, that some of them might be interested in doing these trials and whatnot.
No, I think they'll be watching because they're interested in me. Right. But
okay. No, you know what I mean.
Definitely not me. So, listen, my main concern with camps abroad, when my guys say, I want to go to Thailand for a month or whatever, it always worries me that you become a body on the mat. You know, like if you're not part of the nucleus, no one's going to care about you, and you become like a sparring partner. Was that ever the case for you, or have you sort of, because of the tryout, because you went, like, not as someone who went on holiday and just went to train, you went through the tryouts and then came back? Have you ever felt like that, or has it always been?
I never felt like that personally, but I have seen it, and I do know what you mean. You know, if someone comes here for a short amount of time, 2 weeks, a month, you know, like, they don't really have time to get integrated into the team, and the coaches have already got so many people to keep their eyes on, you know, that you become another body. Unless you can really force yourself to stand out, then unfortunately, you know, you sort of just like fall into the background. But yeah, for me, I pushed myself really hard in the tryouts, and, you know, I showed them that I cared and I was there to learn, and I was like willing to take on all the advice they could give me. So they've always given me attention and stuff. So I've been grateful for that. I've never really felt like just another body.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought of it from a coach's standpoint, that if you've got fighters that you're invested in and that you're traveling the world with and they're at a high level, you don't have time to, Joe Bloggs comes from England for 2 weeks and you're like, yeah, whatever, mate. Like, you're just there to get some good sparring and maybe a little bit of technique in the lessons, but you're never going to get that focused attention that you probably get.
And I mean, it's not like you're not learning anything either, you know, like, just because they're not giving you specific one-on-one attention, you're still learning, you're still getting out of it. Having high-level training partners helps you grow just as much as having a coach standing there watching you, you know. So yeah, I think that once you prove yourself and that you prove you're committed and that, you know, you become part of the sort of Tiger team, then they definitely keep their eyes on you and they watch you. But if you're just coming and going, you know, it's kind of hard to get invested in someone that's just going to leave and you're not going to see them again.
Yeah. What do you do, like, outside of training and the beach? Is it, you know, obviously now you don't do much, like there's nowhere to go or nothing to do, you're just at home, but day to day, sort of pre-COVID, do you go out, do you go into town? I know it's a bit fucking counterproductive.
Like, honestly, I'm a little bit of a boring person. I don't really actually go anywhere. I like wake up, I'll go for a run, I go to the gym, I go to the beach, I come and eat, I go to the gym, and maybe I'll go watch the sunset again at the beach, and then I come home, and that's about it. And I hang out with my cat. But yeah, just try and stay focused. I don't really like to do too much because then you end up being a little bit too tired for training. So yeah, I'm on a one-track mindset over here.
Yeah, good on you. The crazy cat lady mindset.
Yeah. Well, actually, I found this cat in the garden, and it was sort of like screaming one night, and then we saw it and we went to get it, and she clawed the shit out of my hands, and I had to take her to the vet, and she had some infections and stuff, but now she loves me, so we're okay.
You're like, that's my kind of cat. It's aggressive. I like it.
Yeah. It was good.
Oh, well.
So I guess tell the people what your hopes and dreams are. Like, what's the short-term goal and then the long-term goal for you?
I mean, the short-term goal is my next fight. That's like the main goal at the moment, is just getting that locked in so that I have something to work towards. But long-term goal is UFC and UFC champion. So I see myself getting there within the next 5 years for sure to the championship, and within the next year at most to get into the UFC, you know. I think I've proved myself a lot, like in terms of fights. I'm on a 9-fight win streak, like with my amateur and pro combined, and I haven't lost since my second fight. You know, I lost my first 2 but haven't lost since. So I think that I'm definitely being looked at by all the right people at the moment, so I just got to keep the train rolling and get where I want to be very soon.
Do you think them 2 losses helped you?
I mean, at the time, no, but definitely when I look back at it, yes. After the second loss, I went into like a really dark place, and I thought about giving up fighting. I had people in my ear telling me to give up fighting, you know, like maybe you should just try and focus on other things, because I actually dropped out of school to start fighting, you know, like I cared about it that much that I was just like, school's getting in the way, I'm just going to stop going to school and just train. And
100%.
well, that was it.
How was the school career going at the time when you dropped out?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, it wasn't good.
There was fights at school getting in the way, you mean?
Hey, but they were warm-up rounds.
Yeah, you weren't fighting in your weight class then either.
Nah, I was fighting the biggest people I could find for sure, but sometimes I was fighting 6 people at once.
Do you ever keep in touch with anyone from school? And look, obviously I went through all the years with you, and it wasn't an easy time as a parent, and I can tell you, I know it wouldn't have been an easy time as a kid, because yeah, you did get into a lot more trouble than most people that I can think of. That second name isn't Oneill, but you know, do you
Listen,
I
like to think that I'm a different person now, and I would like to leave the past.
100.
We won't talk about the past, but
I'm just wondering if you hear from anybody from school days that, you know, that they've become a different person as well, and a bigger person and a better person like what you are.
None that I fought. If that's what you're getting at. No, I haven't buried any of those.
In school.
I remember there was a girl actually in my high school that literally every week would like message me and try and arrange a fight between the 2 of us. And I'd be like, what? Like, she would just like seek me out to fight me because she knew I could fight. And 9 times out of 10, those fights happen. But that's why I got myself into so much trouble, right? I mean, you were my getaway driver a couple of times, and Mum was as well. So yeah, you played active.
On that bombshell of your dad getaway driving you from school, I think I need to get a getaway driver to get away from my wife if I'm any later today. So
well, I think we can. Have you got anything else you wanna say quickly, Casey, before we wrap up today?
No, not really. I mean, I do want to announce a fight, but I don't have it at the moment, so I can't.
Where can people find you at? Where can people follow you at on socials? And
King Casey MMA on Instagram.
King Casey.
King Casey.
One of the finest nicknames and slogans going around, to be fair.
I do. I love it. And at first when I started like saying it, people were like, that's never going to stick. And now people tell me that it's amazing. So
I love the whole like, fuck queens, I'm the king. Like that. That's a good take.
You got Win to thank for that one. He came up with that.
No, we'll thank Win for nothing.
Yeah, Win came up with that, my spot.
He'll think we're grateful. If we start thanking him, we'll think we're grateful and charge us more.
He's a good guy.
All right, just give your sponsors a last shout out. So you've got Jitsi.
Yep. AB Cranes, the Fight Dietitian, and the Hickman Brothers, Tiger Muay Thai, Ruby SE, and my anonymous sponsor. He really doesn't want me to name him on anything. I ask him every time, but
I've maybe seen him today.
Yeah, so
we're actually talking about we're actually talking about one of your weight cuts as well when I seen him, but that's as far as I can go.
Listen, I had some bad ones, that's for sure, but never again, thanks to Jordy.
Well, when you get that fight announcement, we'll get you back on and we'll let you do it. So that you can...
All right. Sounds good. I'll get onto my manager today, make sure he knows. I've actually messaged him about 6 times this morning, but I'll get onto him again.
Does that mean you're going to stop going onto the organisation's Facebook page and trolling their champions?
No, that's not going to stop.
All right.
I'll never stop.
All right, well, look after yourself out there, and we'll see you soon, no doubt.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
Catch up.